Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Franchise Advisory Board, where we bring in experts from around the industry to talk to you about topics that are most critical to help you build a successful franchise brand. I've got with me Bryan Shankman today. He's the co-founder and CEO of LeadTruffle. And you guys, yeah, this is an AI-enabled sales automation lead follow-up program. He and I preach the same doctrine, right? Like it was fun as we're getting to know each other. He said the word speed to lead twice. So if you know me, you know I'm like this is my people. But Brian's got a cool background, guys. He's worked with Lead Truffle is it went through the Tiny Seed program, so got a lot of smart people that helped him get this thing rocking, and they built some cool tech that bolts on and supports this sales process. You won't be surprised what we talk about with him today, guys. Played football growing up, played college rugby, so he's tough, and also. He's worked at a couple really cool companies that helped give him some background and experience at like TikTok. If you've ever heard of them before, or
Yeah, I heard
frame.io.
it's a popular app. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some people use that. I don't know. So anyway, Brian, I'm so glad you're here. And before we talk about kind of AI enabled, best in class, like modern sales and lead follow up, like tell us about you. Tell us a little bit more about Lead Truffle, and we'll jump right in.
Yeah, Dave, thank you for having me on. I got a chance to look into ClientTether more before coming on, and it looks like you guys are building a very, very specific purpose-built piece of technology for the franchise industry, which is a world we're kind of moving more into with Lead Truffle. So it's really cool to see you kind of already plant your flag there and have what looks like a great tool. So appreciate you coming, having me on. In terms of my background, yeah, you kind of nailed it. I've spent the better part of the past decade working at and in various software startups. I was lucky to join a unicorn called Frame.io. I was one of the first 30 employees there. If anyone listening or you do any type of video editing, you may have used it before. They eventually got bought by Adobe, but I really got a front row. So I was studied English in college, so I just kind of learned how to write and communicate. But I say I got my MBA in startups working at Frame.io, going from employee number 30 something to 150, 200 employees from pre-series B to the acquisition by Adobe. I just learned so much having that front row seat. So have taken a lot of those learnings into starting my own company and very fortunate to go through Tiny Seed, which is a great reputable kind of bootstrap VC model. And then yeah, personally, husband, new father, I have a 1 year old daughter who's just the joy of my life and kind of do everything for her. So yeah, just working, grinding, building out AI tools for local business and yeah, taking care of my family.
Good man. Love that. Love that. Um, Well, we can talk about family later. That's
That's a
like
whole
the
podcast.
driver. It's the driver
Yeah.
behind everything we do.
Yeah.
And so I love that you shared that. Thanks. So talk to us a little bit about the state of lead capture today. Like there
Yeah.
are so many channels, and that's one of the things that 15 years ago is like you got website leads and maybe Google PPC. Like that was kind of
Yeah.
it, but it's so
Yeah.
much more complicated. So lay it
Yeah.
out for us. Like what are you observing since you're kind of on the front of this as well?
For sure, for sure. And let me turn off my little Slack notifications here. So, yeah, I think when it comes to local business, and disclaimer, I've never ran a local business, so I want to put that out there. But I've spent a lot of time working on software and digital marketing and things like that. So, from our customers, what we see is there's like a couple really core buckets of where leads come from. I'll break them down into like, I'll say four buckets. One is going to be kind of third party lead aggregators. So think about Angie's List, Home Advisor,
Mhm.
places where you're paying for leads. You could probably put Google in that bucket to a certain degree, although they're not pay to play. It's a little bit more meritocratic, but nonetheless, they're a third party that generates leads for you. So we'll put that in one bucket. I'd say the second bucket would be out of home marketing. So sponsoring your local little league team, wraps on a truck, billboards, things like that. Three would be your website. So once someone comes from maybe one of those two previous locations to learn more about your business, they're going to be on your website, and there's a variety of ways to capture leads there: forms, chat, phone call, things like that. And then the last one's going to be the phone. So the phone, from what we've seen, the real 80/20 of value for our customers and where we see most of the leads eventually kind of get in contact with the business are through the website and phone. And those two previous buckets, third party lead aggregators and out of home, kind of drive towards those. But I do know there's a lot of businesses that don't even have a website. They just simply are on top of Yelp 24/7. They're on top of Angie's List 24/7. And they're able to get leads that way. So those are the big buckets that we see kind of for most local businesses.
Yeah, some of them are changing, right? Like they're, Google did GLSA, like, and it feels like that's going to continue to be a bit more dynamic
Yeah,
for folks. And I mean, what's the impact though? So let's talk about franchise brands, right? So
yeah,
franchise brands, they're a lot, especially because a lot of them are 10, 15 years old. They aren't maybe capitalizing on some of the newer channels they should. Where do you
yeah.
see some of these maybe brands that aren't as up to speed on the channel changes? Where should they be paying attention more today than they have been?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of alpha right now in Reddit, believe it or not, for two
Mhm.
reasons. One that if you've noticed, Reddit really eats up a lot of the front page of Google.
Yeah.
And I think it's for good reason. Like it is typically user generated content. If you're like, oh, my Samsung Frame TV remote broke, a lot of times you're going to find someone who posted on Reddit who had the same problem and maybe found a solution. So Reddit, I think, is actually like a pretty good source of information. And from a business perspective, you have a lot of local queries happening on Reddit. Hey guys, I just moved to Austin. I'm looking for a new barber who's great in r/Reddit, Reddit/Austin or Reddit/ barbers or whatever. So I think Reddit is kind of slept on. And then Reddit also does feed into the LLMs. So ChatGPT, Google, Gemini, a lot of the training data for these AI tools come from Reddit. So I think for local businesses, if you can get on Reddit, you can get in those local queries and get into those threads. That's really helpful in and of itself. But then that is a lot of the data that feeds to ChatGPT. And more, I think we're just in super early days of this, but more and more people are going to be like talking to Chat, oh, my sink broke. It's not working out. I'm so frustrated. Is there a good plumber near me that can help me? And ChatGPT will be providing that result to consumers, and for a business to be the one that's recommended would be pretty powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I've been in a recent marketing meeting here where we were talking about different channels, and Reddit's one that tends to be undervalued across multiple industries, including franchising. But I remember when TikTok first came out. You worked at TikTok.
I
Not
did.
first came out. It had been out for a couple of years, and I was at a
Yeah.
conference specifically for roofing, and this guy was talking all about TikTok. And after he, did his presentation in the hallway, I was like, "But let's be honest, like, how do you monetize this?" And he looked at me kind of funny. He's like, "Dude, like, let me tell you a story. Siding company. The guy posts a time lapse video on TikTok that people love watching stuff like that, or people doing the actual service, like the painting on the wall, the
Yeah.
sanding of the floors, right? Laying of like tile, whatever." He's like, he got 12 leads from that video that cost him $0. All he did was set up a camera and then post the video afterward. He got 12 local leads. He's like, TikTok's more powerful on the back end than you think.
Yeah.
And tell
And
me,
TikTok's starting to be more local by nature. If you notice, a lot of videos have like a location tag on them, and then you can click that location tag and see who's posting in and around your area. I would say, yeah, historically, I wouldn't necessarily love TikTok for local business because it is so national and international by nature. But I do think TikTok is like very purposely trying to drive towards a more local experience so that you can post a video. And yeah, I've experienced it. I don't know how much you use TikTok, Dave, but if you go to a new city and you open up TikTok, you're like getting content about the local sports team or the local college. So TikTok definitely does localize itself to a certain degree.
yeah, no, I'm not a big TikTok guy, but
Yeah.
I've tried to follow the trends even if I'm not consuming it, right?
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
one more channel for me. Um, cool. Talk to me about consumer behavior changes because especially as AI is rolling out and some of these, and it seems like they're getting into our mind share through different ways now. These corporations are. How is consumer behavior reacting to some of those things?
Yeah. Well, I think I mean, the biggest change I've seen in myself is just how much I use ChatGPT. Honestly, I was always a huge Google guy. And people would like always like throughout my adult life, people would always like, how do you know that? Like, how do you know? Like, I would know a random fact, or like know how to do something, or a group of people wouldn't know how to do something, and I'd say, this is how we do it. And they'd always be like, how do you know that? And I would just be like, the internet. Like the information is just there. You just need to go ask Google for it. But increasingly, that the answer to that question is becoming ChatGPT. So I think personally, just AI, it is overstated and overblown in certain areas, but I think it's like totally underrated in others. Whether I'm cooking for my family or my daughter has, an issue we need to look up, or something's going on with my dog, or I'm trying to work out and get in shape. Like AI can just be such a good kind of thoughtful companion and have so much good information. So I think probably the biggest change we've seen in the past couple of years is a lot of that consumer mindshare moving off of the search engines, off of, the internet browser and into the LLMs and ChatGPT and Gemini.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you mentioned part of this before, but I had to, I was trying to check the oil on my motorcycle. So I was searching all over, like, oh, how do I do this properly on this particular motorcycle? And Reddit is where I got the answer. It was like it wasn't coming through YouTube anymore, which surprised me because I've got a Pixel, so I'm natively Google searching everything and Gemini and stuff. But
Yeah,
um,
we just had a good conversation today with a potential customer for leadtruffle who found us through ChatGPT. And the reason we're cited in ChatGPT is because there's Reddit comments talking about us. So Reddit is like, yeah, again, that kind of underlying data for a lot of the LLMs.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part about this, right? So they're interconnected. I'd say 25% of our web traffic is referred by AI now,
Wow.
and so it's a huge part
Yeah.
of this ecosystem. A lot of people, they're all the people that are eccentric about AI that are like, oh, AI is taking over everything, like SEO is dead. Total bullcrap, right? That's not even close to true. It's still the majority, but do you envision a world where everything's AI driven and no one's really working through Google anymore, or do you feel like that's kind of an impossibility and they'll probably balance somewhere
Yeah.
60/40? What's your take on that right now?
Yeah, it's hard to say, man. It's so hard, to predict the future, but I feel relatively confident in the idea that like my daughter who's one, when she's my age, like I don't think she's gonna be using like a phone like this. Like
Mhm.
I think I mean the screens are like actually such good technology. You can get so much density of information onto them, and they're so dynamic. But I think more and more like computing is going to become a bit more spatial and ambient in nature. And so if you saw Meta's new Ray-Ban, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses coming out for 799 with like the screen in them and the wrist gestures, it's so hard. Like, is Google going to decrease? I just think we're probably going to slowly move towards a world where it's less screens, less clicking, less mouse, less touch, and just it's more ambient. It's kind of always there. You have an earpiece like Joaquin Phoenix's movie Her, and you just kind of talk to it, and it gives you what you need. So, I think we're probably moving towards that. But I think a lot of this stuff happens. I was around for the early mobile revolution and like the cloud revolution, and I think this stuff like in the initial phase, if you look at dot-com bubble, like there's so much hype, it's so much overblown, and then you hit that trough of disillusionment and things kind of slow down and like people kind of reset expectations, and then over the next like 10 years it like slowly takes over. So I think we're
Mhm.
probably around that point now where like there's all this crazy initial hype over AI. It's gonna like die down a little bit, but then like 10 years from now it'll be like, oh, we're in a totally different world.
Mhm. Yeah. If you look at the adoption curve cycle, have you seen those for all the different techs like air
Yeah, yeah,
conditioning and airline flights and television? Like the spike is like vertical. It's like a vertical line for AI. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's ubiquitous. It's going to be everywhere. The challenge is people are trying to infuse it into things where I'm like, what's your point here? Like, yeah,
yeah.
yes, you have a calculator with AI. Good job. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it was like when cameras first came out, I was like everything had a camera on it. Here's a pen with a camera on it.
Right, right. Yeah.
Why?
No. And then
So
you kind of land on the use cases that are actually helpful and useful, make sense.
correct. And let's transition to that. Like what actually works? We're talking about automation here, right? Like how do you follow up effectively with leads? We talked about channels, right? And you talked about phones. We want to come back to phone a little bit because I know you guys have some really cool solutions there. Where are you seeing automation work well, and where are you seeing automation in engaging with potential prospects and leads, et cetera, that it doesn't work as well as it used to, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think where AI goes wrong is that like there's this really strong impulse to want to talk to another human being. I think a lot of it's emotional. If you have like a crazy pest situation at your house, you kind of just want to talk to a thoughtful, competent human being who's dealt with and solved the problem that you're facing. Same with like a doctor, a therapist, whatever it may be. And so, like, I just think there's this emotionality to it where it's like, I want to talk to someone who can reassure me that this problem I'm facing can be solved.
Hmm.
And so, where AI goes wrong is I think people over index on using AI to interact with their customers when, if you're serious about your business and you really want to make it work, like, you should definitely have a very clear path to get to talk to a real human being in a
Hmm.
pretty expedited fashion. We've all had the experience of using the call tree and press one for the press it, and you're on that thing for 25 minutes trying to get on contact with Visa or MasterCard or Aflac or some huge mega corporation. That's just very frustrating. So I think that's like definitely where people maybe are going wrong is that like I think AI is here to stay, but like being able to talk to a very thoughtful, competent, friendly human being is like also here to stay as well. Where I do think AI is like incredibly useful. I think internally there's so many use cases for it, just automating a lot of the rote routine tasks that can take up a ton of your time, letting AI handle those. And then also, for some of the lower end, initial queries, like if you have a lot of tire kickers calling your business, if you have a lot of spam calling your business, if you want to just let the AI do some of the initial intake and qualification, and then eventually let a human take over, or even in our case, let the AI maybe book the estimate or book the initial whatever that meeting is for you, that appointment, and then have a human show up to that appointment. I think that's like a really healthy way to balance it. It's like, yes, do you need a human being every time a new customer calls 50 times a day asking if you do XYZ service to sit there and answer the same questions over and over and over and over again? Like,
Mhm.
probably not. You can use AI for that, in my opinion. But yeah, eventually I think it's good to have a human in the loop.
Yeah, and I think you're leading down this path as well. There's kind of the front end. I think of it in terms of like because we've been automating stuff for years, right? And infusing AI into it now.
Yeah.
But there are certain buckets, categories of engagement, I'll call them, where automation makes total sense, right? Initial lead engagement. Leads come in. Usually people want to talk to somebody quickly. If I'm filling out a lead form on your website, I don't want to talk to you in an hour and a half or 2 hours. I want to talk to
No.
you right now because that's why I
Yeah.
gave you my personal info.
Yeah.
So there's an immediacy of it. But there's also the task is to have a brief pre-qual discussion and make sure that this is a good idea and get an appointment set with a human, right?
Yeah.
Like where there's
Yeah.
a very clearly defined task with a very clear endpoint. I think automation slash AI is a home run. It's a home run. But
Yeah.
usually, once you get beyond that initial engagement and there's a meeting in someone's home or there's a complex discovery process, or some would argue, oh, AI can do that. And I would say, yeah, it can. But my dog can push a lawnmower. That doesn't mean you should mow my yard, right? It's not the
Yeah.
right solution there. So
Yeah.
when it's a complex personal interaction, I think we still need humans to be in the loop, but then, and maybe even drive that. But there's still parts where we can have AI and automation in the follow-up sequence afterward. How do
Yeah.
you advise people around that? So you
Yeah.
complex human interaction, and then where does AI continue to fit or automation play a role after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like using AI for that. If your options are to just create a simple binary, like a lead comes in from your website and you want a real human to call them, but that real human's busy doing other things, so it takes 3 hours to call them. If that's one option, and then the other option is like, okay, AI immediately calls them or AI immediately texts them, understands what they need. Maybe turns out it's not a good fit, so sends them on their way to another provider, or it turns out it is a good fit and schedules an appointment. Like I'd much rather go with option two, where it's like speed and immediacy are so crucial in that process. Now, listen, if you can have a real human call every lead that you get within 10 seconds of the person submitting, like, great. I just don't think that's realistic for most businesses, but if you can do that, then go for it. And then yeah, in terms of like follow up, I think a real like AI is really good at just like analyzing big swaths of data. So having AI in your CRM, you look for opportunities for follow ups or schedule thoughtful follow ups that are instead of having a templated message like hey, just checking in on this quote, you could use AI to generate a more tailored personal message in that follow up step. A lot of ways you could use it there later in the process.
Yeah, how about post engagement? Let's say we win the deal, we close the job, whatever the case may be. How have you seen people use AI to create automation or even just automation in general post sale to continue engagement, cross sell, upsell, get referrals, get reviews, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not something we focus on as much, like that part of the life cycle with our software, but I see tons of great use cases around, yeah, again, identifying folks to follow up with who maybe you did a big job with, but it's been 6 months and, now might be a good time to follow up, or asking for reviews and then, asking for reviews and depending on how they initially felt, sent them on to Google, or
Mhm.
maybe, oh, you had a problem. Okay, let's ping the owner so they can call you and figure out why it wasn't a 5-star review. Yeah, a lot of ways you could inject that.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And that's kind of where we see like there are three big buckets. Front end, front end is critical, right? If you're spending money to get leads in, you better be converting as many as you
Yeah.
can. But then every time you have a service, you do a quote or an estimate, there's usually a drop off point because of human nature to move on to the next shiny thing.
Yeah.
That's a huge window. And then post delivery of service, most brands don't think about it, and
Yeah.
they're not getting referrals. Referrals are free. Some people get like
Big.
11
Yeah.
referrals, man. Like it's crazy. So,
Yeah.
but they're tedious, these processes. So anytime there's a tedious process that humans tend to not want to do, automate. That you need to create
Yeah.
automation around that all the time.
Are
Cool.
you guys doing a lot of AI with client tether and like kind of post sale follow-ups and things like that?
No, and this is where like these are mostly kind of pre-built automations, right?
Mm.
Omni-channel, but they're pre-built and queues for the humans to hey, when you call, here's your reminder and call about this. So queuing and things. I think AI could do some of that actually pretty well. Like a post-service delivery phone call, 100%. I think AI can
Yeah.
easily be trained to do that. But again, it's like narrow scope, specific task. If you do that, AI is a home run and it takes it out of the humans to-do list. Those are areas where I think as we're continuing to evaluate AI, those are places I want to start plugging it in more, even in the post-service delivery, because how nice would it be? It's better. I think the emotional aspect of that, it's more powerful if the owner makes that call or the person who talked to them initially, like if a human makes that call, like it's an opportunity to develop a human emotional connection and
Yeah.
strengthen it. So I wouldn't want to cheapen it, but if you're not doing it at all because you don't have bandwidth, then having an AI call and say, hey, I'm Steve, I'm the AI assistant here at the office. I know we just delivered service. Want to find out how it was. What was your feedback about the team? How did the
Yeah.
project go? Like that sort of thing. And then you can have a sentiment analysis and a transcript summary sent off to the team as a follow-up step if there's anything negative or anything very positive,
Yeah.
and then guide them over to the Google review form. Hey, I'll send you a text with a link. Go ahead and give us some feedback. That's a great use of AI. But a lot of these small businesses are chucks in a truck. Even at the franchise system level, it's like I've got myself and my wife running this $800,000 a year business, and I sub all the work out, so I don't have staff. Like they're lean, man. Do you
Yeah.
find the same thing still, like as you're working with people in the industry, that they just don't have enough people to do a great CX job?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the businesses we work with are, smaller 1 to 2 people shops, and that's where AI can be pretty helpful. And then for the bigger companies too, as well. But yeah, we work with a wide swath of businesses from, literally one person to, tens of employees in an office. But yeah, it's that is definitely a promise of AI that I think is real. Is like do more with less. I think, me and my co-founder and I run a company right now. It's just the two of us, and I think 5, 10 years ago, for sure, we would have had to have, at least 2 to 3 engineers, couple sales and customer success people. But thanks to the efficiency gains of AI, we can really do a lot with just the two of us.
Yeah, and I find that amazing. It hasn't always been that way,
Yeah.
as you well know. So cool. Well, let's talk about what's next, right? So local businesses, franchising, these brands that we both care an awful lot about and service. How do people future-proof their customer acquisition without making this complicated, right? Because I remember a conversation I had years ago with someone where she was like, "Well, I do this and I have all this automation." And I was like, "Well, show me what you got." And she had like 6 or 7 pieces of technology wrapped around each other with Zapiers going all over, and it was a total frankenstack, dude. So, but I think people are nervous about that when new tech comes out. So, how do people future-proof the business without making things super complicated?
Yeah, I would say just like keep it simple and focus on like what really matters, which I think there's a couple core things. One is when someone gets in contact with your business, put systems in place that you respond to them quickly. Like there's a million ways to do that. Like it doesn't need to be AI. You could just have a web form and connect it through Zapier to Gmail, make sure an email goes out when a new web form comes in. Like you don't need to do crazy setups and automations to achieve that goal. When someone calls your business, pick up the phone, like it's and now yeah, you may say, well, I'm a one person business and I can't pick up the phone because I'm not fulfilling the work. Well, it's like, okay, well, now there's this new thing called AI that can pick up the phone for you, so maybe try that. So I would say like just responsiveness, I think is such a easy win. I'm a new business owner myself. Our company is about a year old. Like I'm a new entrepreneur, I'm a early stage entrepreneur. Like responsiveness is one of my biggest levers. Like I get an email if I'm not doing something out, like I'm immediately replying. So I think just being responsive is important. Doing good work. I do more of a digital online business, but just try and be very thoughtful with going the extra mile, hop into a customer's account, setting something up for them, sending them a
Mhm.
Loom video, showing them how they can do it themselves, sending screenshots with annotations, just like really going the extra mile. And I think that's true for any business. If you're pressure washing, if you're dog daycare, whatever, like just really have that personal touch. And I think doing that good business then eventually leads to referrals and more business. And then yeah, just the basics, right? Like, do you have a Google business profile? Do you have a website that's like kind of clear and explains what you do? Are you getting reviews on that Google business profile? I think some of those things are just like relatively easy, not easy, but like approachable, and then like, have like a lot of a high return.
Mhm. Yeah, and then you said it once, we can say it again, and then look for those opportunities where you can create scale, where there's bottlenecks, where there's minutia, where tedium is preventing you from doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly where, especially if it's a narrowly defined task that's got a clear defined outcome. Man, it's a home run like recipe to insert AI, find AI, work with a partner who can develop these things for you. Um, Bryan, I think that you and I could probably talk for another like hour about this. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you and said, "Hey, I liked what Bryan was saying about this," or "I need better help with that," what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, just go to Lead Truffle, Truffle, leadtruffle.com,
Cool.
or you can shoot me an email, Bryan at leadtruffle.com, or I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn, pretty active there, Bryan Shankman.
Hmm.
So any of those avenues, I'll to my point about responsiveness, if you get in touch with me on any of those four places, I'll be sure to get back to you very quickly.
Nice. With AI, or is it actually you? I'm just,
Yeah, no, we definitely dog food is a tech term for like using your own software, lead
Mhm.
truffle a lot. So if you go to leadtruffle.com, you'll see our texting widget in the lower right hand corner. And every day we're getting leads there, and the AI qualifies them and talks to them, answers their question, and then I use human takeover, we call it, to pause the AI and say, "Hey, this is Bryan, co-founder of Lead Truffle, live here in Austin," and we close customers through that. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're taking our own medicine every day and using AI to build our own business.
I love it, man. I say that all the time. The old saying is we eat our own dog food around
Yeah.
here. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you're 100% right. Bryan, this is great. Thanks for making time.
Yeah.
Great insights. I think this was punchy, and you and I may have to get together again and have another
Yeah.
conversation about this.
Dave, thank you for having me on, and hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, man.